and disability income here at Financial Brokerage, and I'd like to thank you for taking the time out of your busy morning to join us this morning. And with me today is Matt Swan. Matt is our Regional Sales Manager for Disability Income with Illinois Mutual. And Matt's going to be talking to us today about some sales ideas, and I think he was going to also specifically address what it means to be middle America, what it means to be middle class in America today, and how it may affect our and your marketing efforts. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Matt. Welcome, Matt.
Well, thank you, Tim. Appreciate the opportunity, and for those of you that have signed on, certainly appreciate your time. I'm hopeful that we'll give you some good ideas, some good food for thought, some suggestions, specifically about the middle income marketplace, which happens to be near and dear to Illinois Mutual's heart, in that 95% of our business falls in that middle income marketplace. So having said that, what I would like to talk a little bit about is, again, the middle income, understanding it regardless of the type of product that you offer. I'm thinking that you'll get some ideas, some sales ideas, some presentation ideas out of this. So having said that, we'll jump in. And as Tim pointed out, I am the Western Regional Sales Manager, which frankly doesn't mean anything to you all. We'll have some contact information, and then, of course, if you need assistance, Tim and company are there to help you as well. So having said that, we'll jump into it. You know, when I set out and I started putting this presentation together, the first thing I did, like a lot of folks, is I went to Google and I did a search. Interestingly enough, if you do a Google search for middle income, surprised to find 8.4 million hits on search of middle income, which led me to start to better understand how do you classify, how do you approach middle income if you don't quite know who or what it is. Well, a couple bullet points. There is no universal definition of middle class. Some definitions are based on occupation, others take regional cost of living into account. So one thing I do want to point out is I recognize that middle class in one city could be defined as middle class in another city. But if you take a look for a pure, true definition, simply one starting at about 50% above the poverty level, family of four. So middle class could be defined as anybody making $35,000 to $100,000 a year could be considered middle class when you look at it strictly on a financial situation. What's interesting, though, is in red down at the bottom, many households making more than $100,000 consider themselves middle class, even though they are making more than this $100,000 benchmark. The point I'm making is understand your audience, understand who you're talking to. Don't make the assumption that the people can afford whatever product you're looking to present to them. Have the conversations. Find out where they are in their beliefs and in their understandings of their financial affairs. So keep that in mind. But if you look for a pure definition, that's what I came up with. If we start to dig into it a little bit, there's some interesting trends going on. 10-year income trend highlights the great 21st century wage slowdown. Long and short, never before has there been a decline in the share of households that qualify as high income. So from a pure trending perspective, what we're seeing is less high income, more middle class, and actually even a decrease in middle income and an increase in low income. So it's, again, an interesting trend. And if you go back to 1967, the statistics are out there proving this trend that the middle income group is on the downward slide, if you will. If you look at it from a pure, again, percentage, 1970, 61% of American households were considered middle income. As of 2012, 50% are considered middle income. And it's not like they're moving up to the upper income. Rather, statistically speaking, they're moving into the lower income. From an opportunity perspective, don't know if you realize it, but there was 115 million households in the United States. So 50% of those, talk about a potential market, 50% of those is considered middle income. So from a pure opportunity perspective, if you're not looking at the middle income as a potential marketing group, I think you should be, given the pure volume of folks in that classification. As far as age goes, there's really no tracking as far as nothing that's pointing out what's considered middle income based upon age. As you can see on this slide, people aged 30 through 44 are more likely to be lower income and less likely to be middle income than in 2000. So again, we're seeing the same shifting trend of folks moving from the middle income to perhaps even the lower income bracket place. And as we can all appreciate, folks are working longer. So what's happening are the folks in their late 60s are headed more towards the middle income or upper income than in the past. I mean, as we all know, the great transference of wealth, the graying of the population, if you will, we're seeing more folks working longer. And again, those folks that have had a track record, that have had a career, are considered considerably more in the middle income, perhaps even into the upper income than in lower income. So that's, again, interesting trends, recognizing who your audience is, being aware of what motivates them or what issues they may be facing. I really like this slide for multiple reasons. Number one, it's very visual, which I appreciate. What this is showing you is, as a percentage, how is the average American family spending money? And a couple things. 31% of their annual income for the middle class spending on rent and mortgages. Next biggest category is groceries, 8.6%. Cars, just a little under 6%. Dining out, a little under 6% as well. And then utilities is the last big category, as well as gasoline. So when you look at it from, if you all are familiar with the Maslow's hierarchy of needs idea, people are clearly spending a good chunk of their budget, let's see, 30, 40, 50, almost 60% of their annual revenue that comes into the household, for the most part, is covering the basic needs. Roof over their head, gas in the car, getting to work, making sure that there's food on the table. I think that's an important piece to understand from a middle income perspective, where money is being spent, because that is going to help to understand what's important to them. So keep that in mind. Mortgages, groceries, utilities are big areas that folks are spending their money on. Education. This was an interesting trend. It sure matters more today than it has ever in the past. And I think if you open up a newspaper any given day of the week, there's talk about the cost of higher education, the cost of tuition, how do we make it more affordable, things of that sort, than ever before. Well, I think what's happening is high school graduates who did not have a four-year college degree were well represented among the middle and upper class in the 70s. That's no longer the case, as high-paying, what we call blue-collar jobs have become rarer. So that the need for technical training, the need for advanced degrees, the need for education certainly is on the upswing that a lot of people are spending money on, case in point, for their education purposes. When you look at it, 2007 relative to even 2010, the average debt that folks have if they're borrowing for education has gone up, a pretty good chunk, 10%, give or take, actually probably even 20% or so. So more money being spent on education, again, recognizing what's driving middle income is where we're going with this. As far as family status, nothing earth-shattering there. Most still have two adults with children. That's pretty straightforward. As we all know, adults are, we're seeing more partnerships and things of that sort. So that seems to be changing. However, recognizing that there's still a trend with two adults which means most folks, it's two working adults out there trying to make ends meet in middle income, middle America. Back to that family status. The point I want to make is be sure that you're addressing both needs, not just one or the other from a product presentation, from a needs point of view. As we all know, the day and the age of the one primary breadwinner seem to be going by the wayside. Again, recognizing that in that household you may have two folks to address your sales ideas and things too. This is another interesting one. When you look at the discretionary income that folks have and are spending it on, clearly bottom right-hand side, most of it is going, again, spent on food away from home, and then you've got all kinds of other stuff in there. Clearly, everybody understands that when it comes to assisting customers finding the money to buy things or to purchase insurance and investments and things of that sort, this is your competition. I mean, no question. We're competing with fees and vacations, and we're competing with, in some cases, tobacco products and televisions and internet fees, cell phone costs, obviously eating out. Again, understanding your audience is an important piece to helping them to make smart decisions about their money. Interestingly enough, are folks saving enough? Well, the savings rates are certainly going down relative to the historicals. 1984, 10% of monies were saved, of their salaries were saved. Look at the downward trend. 2008, 8%, 5.3%, and as of 2011, 3.5%, which really raises the question, are people saving enough? Well, I don't think so. I mean, if you're out there talking to clients about what they're doing and how they're doing it, there's a real problem out there. If you can position things to address several needs, I think it puts you in a real good spot when it comes to advising your clients. As far as understanding income protection or disability insurance, there's been many surveys. The one that I like, which is most recent, a very good one, talks about three to six questions that they asked the potential client or the potential consumer with regard to their income. A third of working adults would be more likely to consider obtaining income protection if they knew more about it. That number rises to 40% for the millennials. Recognize most of these folks surveyed, again, were middle income. These are what's on your client's mind as it pertains in particular to income protection or disability insurance. Another question they pose is, why don't I have disability insurance? Is it lack of knowledge or lack of funds? Two most often cited reasons for not having disability insurance. Younger workers say they really haven't thought about it or just don't know enough, and the older workers believe it costs too much. Well, I think your clients are looking for information and yet looking at ways to potentially make the purchase if it's relevant to their needs, to their situations. Interesting question, or not question, interesting result. More than 20% of the workers under the age of 40 say that they're more likely to win the big lottery jackpot than become unable to work due to an illness or injury. Well, odds in winning the lottery, 1 in 259 million, versus statistically speaking, 1 in 4 people under the age of 40, 25%, have the likelihood of suffering a disability that takes them out of work for 90 days or longer. So 25% of those under the age of 40 before they hit 65 have a 25% chance of suffering a long-term disability or a disability longer than 90 days. Again, misconceptions out there. A couple more, then we'll keep moving along. Income is critical, but I'm not protecting it. Among a list of provided items adults commonly think of as important, 67% cited that income is the top 3 choice of protecting, yet 28% believe it's crucial to have insurance to protect it. Again, there's a disconnect in what's important to them and what they are actually doing about it or should be doing about it. And then lastly, half of those surveyed said that they would tap into their savings or investments to pay their bills if they couldn't work. However, 57% said they only had enough money to pay for 6 months or less of bills. Again, it begs the conversation with your client. If you were sick, hurt, unable to work Monday, how long could you afford to be out of work? Where are you going to pay? How are you going to pay your bills? How are you going to be sure that the mortgage gets paid, that you can pay your utility bills, that you've got food to put on the table? All great questions. So that's an income protection piece of a survey that I really liked. What keeps folks up at night, middle class? Well, 40% feel less financially secure than a few years ago. 45% said they worry a lot about having enough money stashed away for retirement. And then lastly, 57% that they worry about meeting their bills. Clearly, money and the issues surrounding it are top of mind for a lot of clients, especially that middle income group. So what's it all mean? Well, when you're talking to your clients, keep it simple. Make sure it's cost efficient, whatever you're talking to them about. Disability, life insurance, investments, whatever it is. Don't overcomplicate the process. Although it's an educated group, in this day and age where we all learn in 30 and 40-second commercials, don't overcomplicate the process. And then most importantly, treat them as individuals. Everybody's situation is a little bit different. Nobody's looking for the same size, 9 Nike tennis shoe. Everybody's situation is a little bit different. And then be sure to help make sure their dollar goes as far as possible. You're in competition for other things. Recognize that whatever you're doing, whatever you're selling, see if it can do double duties. And I'll talk about that in a minute. How do you start the conversation specifically around disability insurance or around life insurance or investments? We've got a piece, and if you've been around the industry for any length of time, you've seen this in some way, shape, or form. It's what we call Job A versus Job B. And we've got a worksheet that explains it if you really want to use it, which is a great representation. But simply enough, you could take a yellow pad of paper, left-hand side, write down salary, write down income, if hurt, unable to work, if you want to talk about disability, or you could talk about life insurance needs, whatever the case might be, or retirement needs, whatever the case might be, you can write that down. And then across the top, you write Job A, Job B. And in this case, I could write down $3,000 if that's their monthly salary, $0, $2,950, and $2,000. And the conversation is pretty straightforward. And if I were talking to Tim, I'd say, hey, Tim, you're making $3,000 a month now. Let me ask you a question. If you become sick, hurt, unable to work, disabled, you get nothing. Versus if you have the option of having Job B, which means you're taking home a little bit less, $2,950, but you're going to get, say, $2,000 a month if you became sick, hurt, unable to work. Which would you rather have? 98% of the time, why not 100%? I'm not sure, but 98% of the time, they were going to say Job B. Well, great. I'm not sure what your actual numbers will be, but let's start a conversation about Job B as an opportunity for you. Clearly, the idea is helping them to understand that I'm giving up something to get something. So it starts the conversation. I might be foregoing $1 today, but I do get it back down the road if something happens to me, whether it's retirement plans, life insurance, whatever the case might be. So that Job A, Job B, it's a great way to present sales ideas that folks can get their arms around. Another approach is if Tim and I were talking, and let's say I'm doing a review of his different products that he has with me, I could very well say as a wrap-up question something along the lines of this. Hey, Tim, let's say you had 3 assets. One was worth $2.5 million, and I'd write that down. One was worth $250,000, and one was worth $25,000. Let's say you had these 3 assets, and they were yours. Which one would you insure first? Well, he's going to say, chances are, he's going to say the $2.5 million one. Okay, great. I put a little number 1 by this. What would you do insure second? $250,000, and then $25,000 would be third. The conversation can then continue. Well, let me ask you a question. Chances are you probably own some of these assets. What do you have that's worth, say, $25,000? Chances are, and I recognize this is a regional thing, That's my car. Okay, and you've got insurance on it. Yeah, full coverage. Perfect. What do you have that's worth, say, $250,000? And again, regional. I'm going to adjust my numbers if I'm in if I'm in a different part of the country. That's my house. Okay, great. And then what do you think that you have that's worth $2.5 million? Well, if he's talked to a disability insurance guy before, he's going to say, oh, that's probably my ability to earn an income. Most of the times they don't quite connect the dots. And if I'm talking about life insurance, maybe that's representative of their lifetime value that they should be worth from a life insurance point of view. Or this could represent their ability to earn an income if they became sick and disabled between now and when they retire. The point I'm making, obviously, as you can see, is I'm relating what they own as perceived value, which there is in the car and in the house, relative to something that they hadn't thought about from a tangible asset, like their ability to earn an income or their life insurance value. The point is, it's a great way to represent what it is that we do on an insurance basis and bring it back to something that's relevant to them that they can get tangible. So again, great way to represent or to have the conversation about what it is that they're doing and perhaps what they should be talking to them about. As far as an easy way to explain disability insurance, we have this idea of a mug concept that some of you have probably heard of. Conceptually, give them enough coverage to be sure that their house remains a home. Mug is designed to cover at least the mortgage, utilities, and groceries. And oddly enough, we designed this concept, the mug idea, and then I set out to do this middle income presentation. And it all worked together when you look at where are most folks spending their money: mortgage, utilities, groceries, car, eating out, if you remember that slide. It fits very nicely into what's important to them, and most importantly, if push comes to shove, to be sure, again, the house remains a home. So we've got some worksheets and things on the mug concept that you certainly can ask Tim or reach out and we'll get to you. But it's designed to be simple. Speaking of simple, one of the things that we do is we offer a return of premium on our disability insurance. It's just like it says. Somebody buys it, they opt for the return of premium. They have the ability of getting 100% of their money back if they don't use it throughout the course of their working career. So at age 67, they can get 100% of their return of premium back to them. If they've had a need for it, we'll just subtract off what we gave them in benefits and we'll send them back the difference. So if you think about what's important to that middle income marketplace, it's having the coverage or having the conversation about disability and the coverage. Most folks would at least consider buying it if they knew more about it. Making it financially feasible, so designing a plan to cover just the basics: mortgage, utilities, and groceries. Most disabilities only last for a couple of years. A 2-year, 24-month on average is the length of a claim from a disability insurance point of view. So a lot of our policies are built around a 2-year benefit to make sure their house remains the home, covering the mortgage, utilities, and the groceries. So it's a reasonable amount to be sure, again, that the bills and the house stays afloat. And then lastly, a lot of our policies also include that return of premium because most people aren't saving enough for retirement, as we saw. It's potentially a way to force the savings. So it provides coverage if they become sick, hurt, unable to work, as well as provides them another source of revenue, if you will, when they eventually decide to retire. Because we'll either send them back the entire amount, or we can set it up on an annuity and pay them an income stream. So it's a way to force savings, and if they choose, it's a way to annuitize that money that they've sent us over the years and generate some additional revenue during their retirement years. So it's a great way to do double duties when it comes to disability insurance, providing them coverage, and giving some additional benefits and value that they could very well be seeking. If you're not familiar with Illinois Mutual, there's a website, www.5gquote.com, that you can click on, and within 30 seconds, as quickly as you can punch in 6 answers to 6 questions, you can get a quote. You can get a quote and a rate on 3 different scenarios as it pertains to disability insurance costs in Illinois Mutual. Recognize it's not the true quoting software. You can't go in and manipulate it, but it's a great conversation starter that you can have with your clients. As far as my information, that's me. Again, Matt Sawan, that's my phone number. Dana Allen is my internal counterpart. And then, of course, you all know where to find Tim and Financial Brokerage, so you've got that information available to you as well. But as far as this information goes, I'd say open up for questions, but I think everybody's on mute. So having said that, please feel free to reach out to either myself or Tim if we can offer any assistance to you as it pertains to this presentation or disability insurance. So having said all that, Tim, I'm going to throw it back to you.
Well, thanks, Matt. You've given us some really great information and some helpful sales ideas to take away with us today. I'm actually, I think I was trying to take everybody off mute, but for some reason I'm doing something wrong here. But again, if anybody has any questions, I'll probably follow up with all the participants to see if there's anything that they need from me. If you on the call today do have any questions or need any help with illustrations or product questions or sales ideas or anything like that, don't hesitate to give me a call, and I will be reaching out to you also. Our toll-free number here is 1-800-397-9999, and also, if you're currently not yet contracted with Illinois Mutual, we can make that quick and easy for you. Also, you can just go to our website, which is financial-brokerage.com. Click on the contracting tab, and you can contract online in just a couple of minutes. So make that very easy for you. Again, thank you, Matt, for joining us today, and for all of you out there, happy selling for the rest of the week. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Vi kan göra det.